This is a war. They started it. They committed fraud. Their arrogance and their ignorance is beyond compare. This is a criminal conspiracy to defraud. It's not just about you. It's not just about me. The reality is, the more people that get involved with this, there's power in numbers. They believe it because their attorneys told them. The reality is their attorneys have committed malpractice. Qualified immunity, just to give you an idea, DCAD or any CAD for that matter, cannot get past the first sentence of qualified immunity.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers as it's a follow-up on the fraud and corruption that's going on across the nation on a central appraisal district level. And it's starting to look like, guys, and we're starting to figure out that fraud is actually stronger than quantitative tightening. And so I have our guest star, a hero of our community, someone that I have met within 48 hours, has absolutely changed my life and my understanding of the fraud and corruption. And the point of this video today is Mitch and I are going to basically tell you guys that the problem, the valuation, overvaluation fraud extends well past Denton County, well past Texas, and well past residential property. And so I am honored to share the screen with you, Mitch. How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. I just, again, I really appreciate you. And I wanted to show the viewers that it does, exist. The problem with the fraud exists outside of your county. So what I did is I actually tracked what you were saying in my own county in Houston. So I live in Harris County, and I want to show the viewers that, I have proof positive, undisputable proof that homeowners are getting robbed by the appraisal district, even in my own county. This is less than 48 hours after meeting you, Mitch. So, and I also want to show you, Mitch, that you talking to the community here of Real Estate Mindset, the community of YouTube, it has a purpose, that you are giving us value and we're using that value to empower ourselves. And so I have found 3 MLS listings that I would like to show you and I would like to show to our viewers. And so let's start here. And what you guys see on the screen right now is active MLS. This is the multiple listing service. Generally, you have to be a licensed realtor to access this. This is what homeowners are trying to sell their house for. So if they can sell their house for this amount, then it's considered market value. If they can't sell it for that amount, then it's not market value. And so what I want to demonstrate is this first property right here. First of all, this has had $30,000 in price cuts. The listing price is $437,500. This has been listed for 51 days. So we have a property listed for 51 days, $30,000 in price cuts, okay? In other words, Mitch, they cannot sell this property. This property cannot be sold in spring and summer home buying peak. This property cannot be sold for $437,000. But the problem that I'm trying to point out again is the problem that you mentioned yesterday extends well past Texas and Denton County. Look at what Harris County Appraisal District has assessed this value at. According to the appraisal district, the market value, as you see here, is not what they're listing it for. It's actually $521,000. The difference in what they're trying to sell it for versus what they're being taxed on is $83,000. I'm showing you guys proof positive that this house is overassessed by 19%. But the thing is, guys, is it gets much worse. Here's another one. Same area. This took me 10 minutes of research. This property, Mitch, has been cut almost $100,000. The days on the market is 163 days, okay? Which means they cannot sell this house. They cannot sell this house for $427,000. Yet when we go to the county assessor, they didn't even assess this for in the 400,000s, Mitch. They assessed this property for $567,000. That is $140,000 difference, or a 32% fraud overvaluation. It's also very interesting that Bank of America owns this property. That's a subject for another day. Now, I wanted to end for the viewers to let them know that this is every price point. Look at this price point. This is a price point of $245,000. Now, strangely enough, this has been on the market for 53 days, and for some reason, Mitch, they went up on the asking price you see right there, 5,000. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But they're trying to sell this house for 245,000. The county has assessed it at a market value of 318,000. That is a $73,000 difference. That is overvalued by 30%. And again, what I am really, really trying to say here, guys, this is happening. This is happening right now. And all you really need to do to figure out if it's happening in your area is the research. Go on MLS and then pull up the CAD, the Central Appraisal District. And not only that, Mitch also motivated me to look into, is Harris County Appraisal District going bankrupt? Is there any fraud? And look at what I found, guys. Yes, actually, Mitch is right. Even in Harris County, there is a massive, massive fraud scheme going on right now with Mike Miles, the superintendent of Harris County School District. And the crazy thing here, Mitch, and I don't know if you've seen this before, personally, I haven't, he got caught, Mitch, funneling money, tax revenue, okay? And he sent that money to a school that he started. He chartered a school in Colorado, and he's sending our proceeds, our tax dollars, out of state to a charter school. And he got popped for that. And so, Mitch, I want to talk about, we're going to show the viewers the FBI charts. We're going to show them the kryptonite. We're going to show them, what to do about this. But can I get your reaction on what I just showed you? And then can we start talking about how much overvalued these houses really are?
Okay, so the issue with what you just showed is that the CADs will say, we look at value as effective January 1. That is their criteria. The problem with their criteria is that they don't apply it. So, meaning if you have an overvaluation, let's say in 2023, they do this nonsense in 2024 to the homes specifically that you're looking at, where does a home buyer go to get a refund on that overvaluation of taxes the following year? The answer is they don't. They can't, the CADs don't have the money because it's already been spent. And that in and of itself adds to this layer of fraud and the kabuki theater that is being perpetrated on the public as we speak. So that's the underlying problem with what you're looking at. The numbers you're looking at are real, but the result is that the people that paid those taxes the prior year have nowhere to go to get that money back. That's a whole other layer over and above what you just were discussing.
And we'll go into the kryptonite, which is Mitch has written out for the viewers a solution, and we'll ask for your help in that solution here in a minute. Mitch, can I get you to spend a little bit of time now on some of the formulas that you've created to demonstrate overvaluation? And again, I just want to reiterate to the viewers that Mitch has come up with similar information as me, but he has done this in an entirely different way. He has come to similar conclusions by just simply looking at fraud with the Central Appraisal District. So in other words, you guys, this is absolutely brilliant. And so I'm going to start with this form right here, Mitch. And if you can just, take it away, let me know how, what I can demonstrate. But this, can you explain this form, and can you explain to the viewers how home prices adjusted for inflation are actually, way higher than what they appear?
Okay, so what you're looking at there is an analysis between two different homes in two different geographic vicinities inside of Denton County. I want to point out that it's not relevant that it's Denton County. Somebody could literally take these formulas in this theory and plug in their own analysis, and it will be extraordinarily close to these percentages. So what this is showing, going back to 2016, this is over on the left-hand side for the house in Copper Canyon. To make a long story short, the value increase was 64.07% in that amount of time. Well, what's so interesting is that the inflation rate was 24.31%. That's a 264% swing above inflation. And
Okay.
if you go to the home in Krugerville, well, what do you have over there? Same analysis, same percentages, but look at the difference. Value increased 79%, inflation rate still 24.31%. That's a 327% increase. By the way, Krugerville is one of those areas that I mentioned yesterday that was targeted to by the CAD in order to meet the property valuation study as established by Glenn Hagar, the state comptroller. So there's so many issues inside of what appears to be a very simple chart, but it leads to ramifications that are just not only fraudulent, but at the tail end of the day, criminal. So I defy anybody to show where is the math in your mass appraisal system that allows you to increase values 300% above inflation. What's it based on? Where are the comps? The answer is it's not, and therefore you have straight up fraud. Now they're going to say, well, you can't sue us for fraud. That's the general line of, quote, qualified immunity. Qualified immunity gets destroyed, and we can discuss that down the road to kind of stay focused on this. But there is such a thing as ultra vires, and you can, under immunity, simply sue the individuals, which in fact is what the state has set these individuals on the path to happen.
And Mitch, can I just, I mean, this is kind of mind blowing. And just for the viewers, I want, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, when we look at 2022, 2022 is pretty shocking to me. So in 2022, on this property, you received in 2022 an appraisal notice of, the assessor appraising your property, which they don't even have a right to do. They're not even doing it correctly, but they appraised it at 1.4 million. Now you fought that and you got that reduced roughly down to 1.1 million. Is that right?
Yes. And you understand that if they were doing their job in the first place, we wouldn't
have to
suits year after year after year after year.
But here's the shocking thing. So even though they assessed it down and agreed with you at 1.1 million, the next year in 2023, they somehow reassess the value at 1.8 million. So they go from 1.1 to 1.8. And you're pointing out that that's a 33% change. I mean, I don't know a single property, Mitch, that went up 33% in 2022 in one year.
So in 2024, okay, it went up 62%. The difference between 23 and 24, ergo, we're about to file another lawsuit, except this time we're going after the ARB members individually. We're going to go after the RPAs for perjury. So we're in a different world now because we've stacked all this evidence year after year after year. And as we'll show shortly, when we discuss kryptonite, but as I mentioned yesterday, 2301B and 2301E, what you're looking at between 22 and 23, that's your evidence right there. You, the CAD, you, the ARB, you, the RPAs, Registered Property Advisors, all violated the Texas Property Tax Code under 2301B and 2301E.
And Mitch, not just a little bit, is it? I mean, they didn't just a little violation. The violation, as proof to your own experience, your own fight, they overvalued this property in 2023 by 61.79%. And not only that, what I'm trying to explain to the viewers is like, imagine if Mitch wouldn't have done anything. That means that you would be paying taxes, for 61% of no value, of fraud value. Is that correct, Mitch?
100%. And therein lies the problem. When you start stacking this math, which we've done, what you will learn is that since 2017 to 2023, the CAD, Denton Central Appraisal District, has overvalued the properties in Denton by $67 billion. That allowed the theft minimum, okay, we're being conservative, of $1.34 billion in overtaxation. You're looking at the ramifications of that. This is on a simple level, but when you take the numbers and extrapolate it out through the property tax records, you end up with $67 billion in overvaluation. And that is a straight up fraud.
I mean, it seems like in Texas, the fraud is just so bad that it's so clear how it's just unanchored from the reality of what Americans are going through. And if you can, Mitch, can you explain one more time the chart, the value increase versus the inflation increase? Can you break that down one more time?
Okay, the inflation rate is from UStreasury.gov. It's readily available. That's just straight up inflation. The CADs will say, well, but we don't discuss inflation. We have no reason to take it into account, not take it into account. Yeah, that's not true either, because they have to take into account all clear and convincing evidence. So every time they open up their mouth, basically, as George Walker Bush once said, if their mouth is moving, they're lying. And you will find that statement to be very true when you're in front of these ARB panels, because they talk about things they know nothing about. We're in the business of quantifying data. That's what we do on the real estate side. Everything you're looking at is quantifiable. Our formulas are quantifiable. The law is quantifiable. The problem is they choose to ignore it in favor of the fraud. So that 24.31% from UStreasury.gov is an irrefutable number. It's a government number. The value increases, be it 64%, 71%, it doesn't matter. The point of the matter is there is no mathematical formula. That's the underlying point. They cannot deliver today a single mathematical formula that says, oh, well, we can go over and above inflation by 300%. It doesn't exist, proving that the math that they've used is simply pulled out of thin air. They don't use real comparisons. In fact, they refuse to use real comparisons. Do you know on that house that you were just looking at, they had a comparison in Carrollton, which is 35 miles away. They had another comparison in North Lake, which is about 20 miles away. Well, here's a bit of a problem. I built the subdivision. I built that house. I'm pretty sure I know what's there. Pretty sure I know the values. And to that point, at the bottom of that chart, interestingly enough, we looked at the values across all 27 homes in that community. And this will be rather shocking to everybody, but look at the value in 2017. That's $148 a foot. How do you go from $148.83 to 2023 at $232.90 a square foot? There is no math on the planet to justify that. So how did they get there? Well, if you use a new comparison, let's say it's a Toll Brothers house, and Toll Brothers is selling for $232 somewhere in Copper Canyon, somewhere in Flower Mountain, doesn't matter. Okay, so let's get this straight. You're using a new comparison home on a 20-year-old property? Yeah, the problem is that doesn't justify and doesn't comply with USPAP. Doesn't justify and comply with any mathematical formula that they have in their computer systems or their CAMA software. The point of the matter being, again, it's a straight up fraud.
You know what's interesting, just to, kind of keen on your point here, if they're saying they're appraising property, I have a note here. Let me just pull this up real quick, Mitch, just so the viewers kind of understand what they're saying. So here's a letter right here. This is from HCAD. This is to a homeowner. And this is Harris County Appraisal District, basically saying this is your official notice of your 2024 property appraisal for the account listed. As of January 1st, 2024, we appraised your property. But as far as I can tell, these are probably hourly wage employees that are trying to act like appraisers. But the thing that keeps getting me, and I keep coming back to this, Mitch, if they're going to use the uniform appraisal standards, then they must comply with how the appraisers are doing it. And when we see, again, I just showed the viewers the MLS, that's market value. They can't even sell the house, some of those houses for $400,000. The assessors have assessed it for $550,000, committing fraud. And I can prove that because if we send the appraiser back out to that house, someone that we get, an independent appraiser, they're not going to appraise that property for $550 because they're going to adhere to the rules. The rules being they're going to find comparable data within the subject property subdivision. They're going to use recent comps. When I fought my own and I protested the value on my own house, the appraisers told me, and I had to talk to a board of 3 appraisers, and I found recent comparable data. This was in lockdown, so I was fighting for my value to go down. And they first of all, they were treating me and laughing at me, saying, oh, then why did you buy the house? And I'm like, what does that have to do with these comps I'm trying to give to you? But what they told me, Mitch, is they said, our program doesn't allow us to use your comps. And my question is then why am I talking to you? Don't I have a legal right to protest? And now you're saying that you can't use my data?
You actually have a legal right to do recourse under the 5th and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, right? Due process, and your due process is being violated. Over and above that, kind of going back and looking at that chart. So globally on 27 lots, you've got 49.85% in terms of the increase divided by the 24%. So globally, this is showing again that the subdivision is being targeted. Why? Because inflation, what they've done with this value is 200% greater than inflation, even globally. So the point being, again, there is no math, there is no formula to do this. And what they're doing is completely selective enforcement and targeting communities, this subdivision, Krugerville, Pilot Point, Aubrey, over and above the 24% that Denton County on average got hit with. So you end up with a situation where we've had calls from attorneys in Chicago, Los Angeles, Florida, all across Texas, wanting to get more information on how this is done, because attorneys typically aren't good with math. And we've tied the law to USPAP to the math, USPAP to the Texas Constitution and Texas Property Tax Code, and to the Constitution of the United States of America. This has all been tied together, and there's no way out of this box. It's their data, their numbers, their lies, and they consistently, DCAD is the gift that keeps on giving, because like I said, every time they open up their mouth, they are caught in a lie. And it's their data. It's their certified tax rolls, which we caught them on record, on tape. We have somebody from the inside who will testify that she was told to commit fraud. It goes on, and the levels of shenanigans, criminal conspiracy get deeper and deeper and deeper. So all of these problems that you're seeing, even just to this point, show that they are completely ignoring the law. And in reality, what we're seeing across Texas is that there is no CAD that we have seen so far that is doing any appraisal under the auspices of the law. And the opposite of that is they're making it up.
And you know, Mitch, they would say, in a term that we like to throw around in our community, is math matters.
Yeah,
math matters a lot. And so let's divert now if we can, because I really, again, I hope the viewers are starting to understand this is a problem that extends well outside of Denton, well outside of Texas. But now I want, if you can, to talk about how it actually extends outside of residential real estate as well. And I want the viewers to understand, when it comes to residential mortgages and residential property, when compared to commercial, there's an overwhelming amount of consumer safeguards. The fraud is still running over that. I'm just saying that there's a lot more red tape when it comes to residential. When it comes to commercial, there's a lack now of consumer, if you will, safeguards. And so as a result of that, these central appraisal districts are absolutely gouging commercial buildings and the assessment value. And I'm going to throw up right now, I'm going to throw up chart number 6 and data presentation number 6. And you guys, everything will be referenced in the description. If you want to access these forms, I will make a link for that. But here's this right here, Mitch. This is the commercial shopping center property flow. Can you explain the viewers what's going on here as far as the increases in assessment value and the years?
Okay, I just want to step back for 1 second. The amount of people that are affected by this, it's not just commercial, it's not just single family, but it's renters in single family, it's renters in multifamily, it's renters in commercial. Because in reality, if you own a shopping center, you have triple net rents. Well, you collect the taxes back from the tenants. Anybody that's sitting inside of a building, regardless of a house or commercial property, is in fact getting taxed. They may not be the one fighting the taxes, but they are paying for the overtaxation and the overvaluation. With that said,
because the landlord is passing that expense,
yes,
to the renter to maintain their cap rate, in other words.
Yes, exactly. So with that said, what you're looking at here, this is just one shopping center. And to make a long story short on this particular chart, if you look kind of in the middle, see where it says current year over prior year. So, and you just go down from 2015 to 2023, you're going to see percent increases, 286, 318, 420, 385. Again, There is no math on this planet under any CAMA software, under any software in any mass appraisal standard to be able to do this. This is a fraud. This is a lie. They have violated every tax code law on the books. It's irrefutable. They did this. These are their numbers. These are the valuations. We have had to file lawsuits every single year because of this. And by the way, again, violating the Texas Property Tax Code under 2301E is exactly what they've done. So this coming year, we're about to unleash against the ARB members, the RPA for committing perjury. RPA was licensed by TDLR, Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, and we have zero intent of stopping. This will not settle out.
Okay, and then it's really hard to wrap my mind around triple digit increases like this, but if I can draw the viewers' attention to the year of 2020 and that row, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Mitch, but they sent you out a notice reassessing this. A commercial property notice was sent out, whether you own this or not, at $3.81 million. Which is a 420% 1 year increase of value, which is almost impossible, but whatever. Now you fought that and you were actually won, and you were able to reduce the appraisal value from 3.8 million, and you removed 2.1 million of that assessment, which dropped it to what, about 1.7 million. So you went from 3.8 to 1.7.
Well,
and then the next year, and then in the next year and the next year, they kept trying to milk it. They kept trying to milk you. I mean, are they giving you a value formula? Are they saying, Mitch, this is how we're calculating?
There is no such thing. We have their income calculation worksheets. If I took one of their income calculation worksheets where they artificially, fraudulently increased the income, took the expenses down to 35% of actual expenses, and then they lowered the cap rate. Okay, if I walked into a bank with that exact income calculation worksheet and I said, yeah, give me an extra 1.7 million. Do you understand? Within 30 days, I would be arrested for bank fraud. Their income calculation worksheet is a straight up fraud. They must use actual numbers, not their made up numbers. And that's how you get to these values. We've won every single time, but do you understand? I'm spending an awful lot of money in lawsuits and this is why we've now gone to a different level of the lawsuits, because the law, I'm not supposed to be able to sue them every year. I shouldn't have to. What they're doing is year after year is a straight down extortion. This is what this is. This falls under RICO. If you don't pay us, we'll take your property. There's your gun.
Talking about RICO, talking about solution, let's, we know this whole copy and paste fraud scheme is going on. So let's create a copy and paste solution blueprint, if you will. And I want to bring up your FBI chart. And I want the viewers to know one of the reasons, and I'm going to show the viewers, unless you want to go back, take a couple steps back, I'm going to show the viewers this chart right here, Mitch, and I'm going to make this available for them. And what we want you to do with this chart, you guys, is basically, we're not saying that I'm not saying it, maybe, I don't think Mitch, neither one of us is saying that every single official, every single one of them is guilty of fraud. We're not saying that. What we're saying is use this FBI chart to figure out who's in charge in your own county as far as the appraisal district. And from there, you may actually be able to spot who's the fraud, who's corrupt here. And so can you explain what you've put together here, Mitch, and then basically how people can use this chart, this FBI chart, to kind of map out potential corruption in their own appraisal districts?
Okay, first of all, the FBI wishes they could do a chart like this. This is a whole different category. And what we've done since 2016, we've built all the documents that these co-conspirators that you see on this chart have created. And you'll notice in the bottom of a lot of these columns, especially the ones that are highlighted in yellow, you'll see the words no enforcement. Well, let's look at the state comptroller under number 11. How can the state comptroller have no enforcement over the criteria that they establish for the ARBs and the CADs? That is a lie. They have full enforcement. They simply choose not to do it. I have filed a complaint at the request of the FBI to the state comptroller. We did that. State comptroller responded, quote, "We don't have any enforcement." I get a letter from them once every quarter or so that says, okay, the case is still open. Here's the problem. That complaint was filed 2 years ago. Our inside person filed a complaint 3 years ago, both of which have gone unanswered. So then as you go through this, everything that you see that's highlighted in yellow, those are the people that signed an oath. The oath says to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Texas. Under the Texas Constitution is uniform and equal. It's a requirement. Every one of these people have violated that oath. They have violated the Texas Property Tax Code. They have violated the Texas Constitution. Violating the oath is a third-degree felony. Up at the top, number one, is the chief appraiser. So the point being, I mean, we can walk all the way through this and I can explain this in more detail, but the point being that regardless of your CAD, these are the players. You have the state comptroller, you have your chief appraiser, you have IAAO, the International Association of Assessing Officers, TAAO, Texas Association of Assessing Officers, the licensing body, TDLR, Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. And frankly, just to give you an idea on the appraisers themselves, do you know that TDLR is actually responsible for licensing hair removal specialists? So apparently appraisers have the same qualification as hair removal specialists. In other words, basically you got your license out of a box of Cracker Jack and you're getting paid to ignore the law. So yeah, I have zero sympathy for them because they're stealing money from the public. That's what we're doing here, is to prove it. We have the proof and we want to arm everybody so that they understand how to fight it. And that's
Can I go over, Mitch? This is an incredible. This is not just a chart. This is also a body of your work, if I'm not mistaken. These are actually milestones that you yourself have done. You have filed reports with the state comptroller. They ignored it, sidestepped you. You're talking about gaslighting. You have links. You have emails containing detailed violations, ignorance, evidence of. I mean, holy smokes, no enforcement, violated oath, hundreds of thousands of errors. I mean,
I want everybody to understand every word that's coming out of my mouth is literally backed up by evidence, no exaggeration whatsoever. So what you see in here, if you look really close at this, you'll see items that are blue in color and it says link.
Yes.
There's 1,100 links to live evidence. This chart was put together for the benefit of a judge and or judges.
Oh, man.
There is no way out of this box. We have the evidence. They refuse to look at it, don't honor it, whatever. They're not paying attention to USPAP. They don't care. They just say, well, we have immunity. Yeah, no, you don't. Fine. You want to go to court? I'll even offer up, you want to have a debate with me on this topic? No problem. You're wrong.
I mean,
we've got you.
And to the viewers, again, this is going to be linked to my description. This is your blueprint.
100%. This is what's going on. This shows the co-conspirators. This shows the ramifications of them being co-conspirators. It talks about the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment and Title 18 USC Section 1512. It's all in there. Anybody who's destroying evidence, i.e. their own attorneys are culpable in aiding and abetting a criminal conspiracy to defraud. We have them. It's documented. They can say, well, we didn't do it, but that's clearly a lie because we've got the evidence. It's
compelling. I mean, people are listening to what you're saying, Mitch. The value that you're bringing and the awareness is it's unmeasurable. I mean, you can't put a value on awareness like this. I appreciate you being a hero. But Mitch, here's the thing. Let me tell you, first of all, we got to talk about, let's move on to the solution. I want to bring up the kryptonite. But I want to tell you, before I did this video, I told you a little bit. I got my hair cut. You can't tell, unfortunately. They did a decent job. But I was talking to the person that was cutting my hair, and I was all lit up. I'm like, I'm talking to freaking Mitch, man. We're going to light these people on fire. And, she started talking to me. And she's a hair cutter at Sports Cuts in Kingwood, whatever. And she's like, Travis, and I'm preaching to her. I'm like, save your money. And she's like, I stopped paying my credit cards. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, I just stopped paying because the interest rates were too high and it was just eating into our budget. So we just completely stopped paying our credit cards. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to this lady. And then I found out she also owns a home. And then Mitch, I found out not only does she own a home, she's not filing her homestead. She's not protesting the value of her house. And when I asked why, She said, I just thought it would take too long, and I didn't think I had the power to do anything about it. This was 30 minutes before I sat with you. And I said, listen, I'll tip you $14 or whatever it was, like $15. I'll tip you 50. It was like 25% or whatever. It's like a good tip. And I was like, but you got to promise me when you go home, you're going to file the homestead. You're going to protest the value, and you're going to stop these people from robbing you. There is a massive gap of awareness, Mitch. People are listening, but how do they take action? Can you go over the kryptonite, which is on the screen right now for the viewers?
Okay, so what I'm going to do, just give me 2 seconds here because I'm going to switch over to my kryptonite. Okay, so what we did here, these are the codes and the laws that the CADs cannot, this is a short form version. There's actually a version that we have that's 10 pages long, but I labeled this kryptonite on purpose because it is the summation of the majority of the punch in the face to the CADs and to the individuals of the CADs. And when they say, well, we have immunity, yeah, you don't, because under Texas Penal Code, this is at the bottom of the kryptonite, Texas Penal Code 701, assisting in the commission of a crime or fail to report crime states that a person may be held legally liable and responsible for another person's criminal activity. Okay, that's how you get to the individuals. That's how you get to the ARB. That's how you get to the RPAs, not to mention perjury. Then it goes on under Title 42, which is federal code, section 1986, knowledge of wrongful act and power to prevent states that a person with knowledge that a wrongful act is about to be committed and having the power to prevent the commission of such a wrong neglects or refuses to do so is liable to the party injured for all damages caused by the wrongful act. Again, this is how you take down the individuals who are committing the fraud. They do not have immunity under any circumstance. And I want to point out that those who don't study their history are doomed to repeat it. We're in this discussion right now, believe it or not, that goes all the way back to the War of 1812. The War of 1812 was fought over British law, where the British government was literally doing the exact same thing that the state of Texas is doing, where the British government assumed that its land, where its occupants and or servants were, would allow them to collect a tax in perpetuity. In other words, the person who thinks they own the land doesn't own the land. They're in servitude to the government. The state of Texas has literally done an end run around its own constitution, but in fact has copied British law over which the War of 1812 was fought. And to your point about the lady who said, well, why should I fight? It's too complex. It is a pain. But when you understand what is happening here, it's not just about you. It's not just about me. The reality is the more people that get involved with this, there's power in numbers. The more lawsuits that get filed for those people who can't handle the property values and decide, okay, I have to file a lawsuit, then if you double the amount of lawsuits, you effectively break the CAD. They have budgets. They don't have the money. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the attorneys. And the truth of the matter is, when you understand what's going on here, their attorneys don't have an argument. Understand what's happening. They claim immunity for which they don't have, but they don't have a defense. And that's when things get really interesting, because there is no defense against this mountain. And it's no joke. I mean, this is literally a mountain of evidence. There's 1,100 links in what you were calling the FBI document. They can't get away from it. It's their documents. So everybody has to fight. And even if you say, okay, I'm just going to handle the appeal myself, I'm going to do the best I can, I'm going to use the kryptonite, and you can take that kryptonite and match it to your own circumstances. That's the beauty of it. But that one document gives you the ability to fight, because all you got to do is say, what are my circumstances? What's in kryptonite that matches my circumstances? And that's what I'm going to go and protest on. And by the way, even in the protest, they give you 15 minutes. I was at a protest, they just gave me 8 minutes. That's a violation of the U.S. Constitution, 5th and 14th Amendments. And they're going to get punched in the nose for that. So every time they say, again, that proves that they're making it up on the spot. When you walk into an ARB hearing and they say, well, you get 15 minutes and the other guy get 7 minutes, Yeah, that's called selective enforcement. So there's answers to all of this. Overall, the question is, why are you, the CAD, violating every single requirement without exception under USPAP, Texas Property Tax Code, Texas Constitution, and the Constitution of the United States of America, including the 16th Amendment, where you can't tax unrealized gains? And for the viewers out there, unrealized gains is the definition of market value.
Mitch, I will say, I love the power in numbers. I love the unity. I'm going to show the viewers here in a minute your petition if they want to help, if they believe what you're saying. But I also want to encourage people not to be like the person that cut my hair. And if you're listening, I'm sorry. This is an important story. But rather, it doesn't take very long, Mitch. You know, it's just a tiny bit of hassle, but I mean, you can save thousands of dollars. Would you rather work for 5 days straight? What's the bigger hassle? You guys, it takes probably 15 minutes to file a residential homestead if you're in a county that allows it. It takes
one step.
Maybe, and just last thing, it takes 2 minutes to file the protest. In my central appraisal district, I only have to click a button and it says protest value. And so if you're not doing that, you're allowing them to steal. And so the solution is your empowerment. The solution is the numbers. And what were you going to say, Mitch?
You have to understand that if you don't file, even if it's a minimum, say, okay, the difference is $100,000, so it's a $2,000 tax bill. Here's what's going to happen to you. The following year, so if they reduce it 1 year, they're going to make it up the following year. And if you don't come in and file your protest, they're going to turn that around on you and they're going to say, well, you weren't here to file your protest. Therefore, you must be agreeing that that's the value. You've been screwed twice. You don't even know you've been screwed once.
Mitch, I got bullied when I was protesting. I mean, they were literally making fun of me. They're like, oh, well, then if you're a realtor, then why did you buy that house? And do you know more than us? And I mean, it was like 3 people.
The answer is yes, you know more than them. That's clear because I've just shown you all the evidence that these ARB panels are as ignorant and arrogant as the CADs that they work for. And by the way, they're supposed to be independent bodies. They are not. Those ARB panels are bought and paid for by those CADs. The deck is totally stacked against the taxpayer. We're doing it to reverse it.
And Mitch, really, I hope that the viewers on this video are starting to understand this is well outside of your county, well outside of Texas. It's well outside of residential and commercial. Now, for the viewers, I'm going to have this direct link in my description. This is one of Mitch's petitions. Again, this is going to go directly here. And I just wanted to encourage you guys, don't think, your involvement is going to necessarily take too much time. I mean, you can literally help the message. You can literally help us take them down with seconds of your time. All you have to do is you click the link in my description, come here, read the petition, put your name and information here, let them know, are you a homeowner, apartment renter, whatever, and submit your signature. I mean, it's as easy as that. If you, again, want to fight, but maybe you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, but you believe in fair taxation, right? And you believe in fighting fraud. You believe in standing up as an American that said, this is enough. We need to stop this. If you believe those things, then please, guys, take 30 seconds of your time and help this man. Mitch, any last words, brother?
Yeah, just so people know, we don't share that email with anybody. That's actually being put together for the benefit of the judge and or judges, because we want to show the judge and or judges there are real people. This isn't the Mitch Wexler show. There are real people behind this. A lot of real people, that, as I said yesterday, are in harm's way of going bankrupt and or losing their home. You've got 37% of the households at risk here, and that's a real number, Your Honor.
Very good. One thing before we go, Mitch, that I had a question about the video that we did yesterday. And let me know if you don't have time, but I was hoping you could talk real quick on the bonds and then the leverage of those bonds as far as now. Yesterday you said 20-to-1 leverage. If can you explain real quick as far as the pensions, the CAD valuations? Can you explain how they take the bonds and it's leveraged 20-to-1?
Sure. So let's say that LISD, as a way of example, and I'm not picking on LISD at the moment, I did that yesterday, but let's just say that it's LISD and they received $1 million in tax receipts through the CAD. Well, they would take that $1 million and then they would lever it up to pay for items that they have bonds for, such as roofs. They have bonds for roofs. They have bonds for driveways. They have bonds for parking lots. They have bonds for glass. They have bonds for buildings. They have bonds for stadiums. So they would take that $1 million and lever it up roughly 20-1. The problem is when you've got 37% of your population right now today that's in harm's way of losing their homes, you've got homes that are overvalued by 74% based on the median income. So in other words, what the chief appraiser says is a $514,000 value of a home simply isn't true. It's around $269,000. Well, when you have these type of numbers as the backdrop, and that's why I said yesterday, there is no math that allows these bonds to be paid off today. In other words, the cash receipts today cannot pay for the current debt load that these taxing entities like LISD have created. And that's why I said LISD, by all definition, is bankrupt. So is DISD, because they don't have assets. The only asset a school district really has is the land those buildings are sitting on. The buildings aren't worth anything. Their only real cash flow asset is the tax receipts. When you lever it up 20-1, where's the money going to come from to pay off that $20 million in 2025? Never mind what's happening in 2024. The only way they can keep this thing going is abject theft of more of the taxpayers' money. And when you follow it through to its ultimate conclusion, and it's in reality, what are the bonds worth? If you're lucky, 13 cents on the dollar at the tail end of the day, maybe. But when fraud gets associated with it and the school districts are tagged with, in fact, committing fraud because they underwrote the bonds, what's the real value? I don't know, sub 13 cents.
Mitch, just one more thing. Let's talk about the get out of jail free card. The get out of jail free card that is currently in existence called qualified immunity. And can you explain how, it's as crazy as it sounds, some of these master appraisers believe that they have a get out of jail free card, that I can commit fraud because I have a qualified immunity, meaning that if I get caught doing something wrong, that I'm protected. Can you explain how they have this premise of qualified immunity and how that's complete jokerism? I mean, that's nonsense. That's stupid to have that preconceived notion. Can you explain qualified immunity?
Yeah. They believe it because their attorneys told them. The reality is their attorneys have committed malpractice. Qualified immunity, just to give you an idea, DCAD or any CAD for that matter cannot get past the first sentence of qualified immunity. So the first sentence says, if the United States, qualified immunity is a legal principle of federal constitutional law that grants government officials performing discretionary functions immunity from lawsuits and damages. Okay, understand what I just said. Discretionary functions. I'm sorry, USPAP is required. It's not a discretionary function. The oath of office is required. It's not a discretionary function. The Texas Property Tax Code 2301E and 2301B is required. It's not a discretionary function. The Texas Constitution specifically states uniform and equal is required. It's not discretionary. They cannot get past the first sentence. All they got to do is read their own damn documents. The truth is they don't want to read the documents because they don't care. They don't care because they're getting paid not to care. They don't care because they know they're committing fraud. How do they know? We've told them. We've given them the evidence. Again, they don't care.
And Mitch, you're leading me down another path. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I got to ask you. I got to ask you. The homeowners are giving up. Okay. Think about this. One of the third MLS listing I showed you, that's a $245,000 house in this area. $245,000 house is someone maybe not, well, these days you need to be a millionaire almost to afford a $250,000 house. But like, Mitch, they're being overtaxed by 30%. You just said that there's nowhere to get a refund. How do they get paid? I mean, is there really no way to get a refund? I mean, can we backdate? Can we prove to these appraisal districts that they were overvaluing us and will they go in the rears and refund us? I mean, is there really no way to stop the past fraud?
You have a circular argument, and the argument is that, let's just say, for the sake of, and we have chosen not to do this for a very specific reason, but let's just say, never mind, let's just say, we have the irrefutable evidence they're committing fraud. They're stuck. However, if we file a certain type of lawsuit that says, okay, we've got the evidence you stole 1.34 billion plus, that's conservative, and we ask for treble damages, we're now at 6 billion plus. DCAD doesn't have the money. Denton County doesn't have the money. The state would literally have to turn around and raise taxes to cover off the damages. We thought this through and we said, okay, let's not dance down that road because it's going in the wrong direction. The best we can do is that the individuals file as many lawsuits as humanly possible and overwhelm the CADs and bankrupt them. Second step would be file the lawsuits against the individuals, the ARB members, the RPAs that commit perjury, the chief appraiser that is a responsible party in law for all of this. Take them all down. Start filing as many lawsuits as you can. And again, that'll make it impossible for these CADs to operate, because if they can't get ARB panels, they can't get RPAs. You've, in fact, put a stranglehold on them. And the reality is, this is a war. They started it. They committed fraud. Their arrogance and their ignorance is beyond compare. This is a criminal conspiracy to defraud. And the only way to deal with it is a very painful, slow process, which we're doing through the courts on one hand. And on the other hand, is to help the public get informed so that they can fight this as best they can on their own. The more people that pick up and say, yeah, we're going to fight this, I don't believe you have any choice in the matter, because if you don't, those CADs will shove those numbers down your throat. They will literally say, you weren't here to protest, therefore you must agree that this was your value last year. Now, it's not a true statement, but these people are liars and cheaters. We've proven it. And like I said, if their mouth is moving, they're lying. And they take advantage of people who don't know what the law is. We're going to do the best we can to put a stop to that.
Mitch, would you agree? Well, first of all, when we talk to normal citizens, normal consumers, pretty much every middle class, is there even a middle class anymore? But the middle class below, we feel the inflation. People feel the inflation, but isn't it fair to say that the more powerful expense here is actually fraud? Fraud is actually more powerful than quantitative tightening. Would you agree with that?
Fraud is way more powerful. See, the quantitative tightening and then the subsequent easing and then the current inflation rate, which I just showed you, well, the fraud at 24% for the current inflation rate as compared to values that went up 72%, 65%, you pick a number, doesn't matter. It's still 200 to 300% greater than inflation. Well, that's another mechanism to understand how much the fraud is. We were able to quantify the fraud at that 1.34 billion, but you can get there through multiple avenues. You can look at it from the standpoint of inflation. You can look at it from the standpoint of a Gaussian channel and just simply say, these are the half standard deviation values, and anything above a half standard deviation, as shown in USPAP, is in fact fraud. You can get there through multiple channels, and we've done it. We've triangulated all of this. So the fraud overrides everything, including the law, and that's the underlying point to this. They do not give a damn at all about USPAP, the Texas Property Tax Code, any law, and frankly, any citizen as a real estate tax-paying citizen in the state of Texas. If they did, they would have been doing smoothing since day one, which means you're telling the truth. You've got several years here since 2016 of accumulative fraud. The math that they're putting in front of the average person doesn't matter. Income property, single family home, multifamily property, it doesn't matter. The math that they're using doesn't exist. It's a straight up fraud. They're making it up. You can't have multifamily properties, which is on one of those charts, right? There's 3 multifamily properties there that literally doubled in a year. Well, do those multifamily buildings rent double in a year? No. So where's the math? It doesn't exist.
Yep. Mitch, I know I said there's like 5 last questions. I mean, but this is the impact you're making. Can you just tell the viewers, and let's end here, go ahead and end us out of here, but I want the viewers to know what's next for you. If you know, I'm doing this myself, man, I'm going to rally behind you. I believe in what you're doing. I want to support what you're doing. Can you tell the viewers what's next for you as far as exposing this?
We stay the course. We stay with the lawsuits. Eventually, I believe this is headed for a showdown at the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I think the state will continue to double down and just claim, well, it's the fault of the CADs. Yeah, it's not, because you've been put on notice. And everybody that's touched this thing has been put on notice. We did it on purpose. We've been building this case for years, notifying people. I stood in front of the board. I handed them a binder. Didn't have to do it. I did it to make them be deemed a person of knowledge. That's their job. That's their charge. They've been told they're breaking the law. And under Title 42, U.S. Code 1986, broken federal law. So we will stay the course. We will end up suing individuals. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. If they go bankrupt, they go bankrupt. There's nothing I can do about it. They chose to do what they're doing. They chose to be ignorant. They chose to follow criminals. And we intend to put a stop to all of this, one way or the other.
Godspeed, my friend. Godspeed. And I hope that we can follow you with that journey, keep the viewers updated on your progress. And, you know, like I said, everything's going to be linked in the description. Mitch, I can't thank you enough, man. I know what is it? Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully we'll get this video out. You've been an incredible asset as far as awareness to the community. I know the real estate mindset community appreciates you, Mitch. And we'll do the best we can to support you, to sign the petition, and just to follow up on you, man. And you guys, other than that, just let us know in the comment section below. Are you getting sick and tired of the fraud? Do you not think it exists? I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. It's happening outside of Texas. It's happening outside of residential. My question to you, the viewer, is what are you going to do about it? Now, other than that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys already know, we wish you luck, and we hope you win.